Let's be honest. Trying to navigate Canadian immigration right now can feel like you're lost in a maze that keeps changing its walls. The rules, the pathways, they're all shifting. And that's why it's so important to have a clear map. So let's dive in and make some sense of the big picture for 2025 and into 2026. So, if you're thinking about making that move, you've come to the right place. We're going to break down exactly what's different, what's new, and what you absolutely positively need to know right now. And we're not just guessing, we're using the latest data and official announcements to guide us. You know, the big story of Canadian immigration in 2025 is really a tale of two different things happening at once. On one hand, yeah, we've seen some doors kind of close. Some of those traditional routes for entrepreneurs and self-employed folks are on pause. But on the other hand, a whole new set of doors are swinging wide open. We're talking targeted opportunities for skilled workers and some huge changes to citizenship. So it's not about fewer chances, it's about more specific ones.
Okay, let's start with the absolute heart of Canada's economic immigration system, express entry. We're not going to speculate here, we're going to look at the cold hard numbers from 2025 to see exactly who Canada is rolling out the welcome mat for.
First up, let's just get a sense of the scale here. Across all 58 draws that happened in 2025, the government sent out just under 114,000 invitations to apply. That is a huge number of people invited to make Canada their home. But the real question, the one we all want to know, is who were they? And wow, does this chart tell a story? It just lays out the government's priorities plain as day. The single biggest group invited, and it's not even close, was candidates with French language skills, a staggering 48,000 invitations. That's way more than the Canadian experience class, which usually dominates. Healthcare pros were also way up there. The message couldn't be clearer. If you have certain skills, you are in very high demand. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at how these targeted draws affect the scores you need. I mean, check out that difference. The average score for French speakers was a very reasonable 422. For healthcare, 481. But for the more general Canadian experience class draws, the average shot up to 529. This tells you everything you need to know. Fitting into one of those target categories can make a massive difference. Let's dig into those numbers just a little bit more. This table really gives you a feel for the score range for each key category in 2025. You can literally see that the minimum score for a French draw dropped all the way down to 379. Crazy, right? For healthcare, the lowest it got was 462. So as you're planning for 2026, you can use these real-world numbers as your benchmark to see where you might fit in. So the data is screaming a clear message. It's all about targeted skills. Now let's switch gears and see how that same thinking is creating brand new opportunities, especially for professionals living in the United States. While some of the general paths are getting tougher, Canada is basically putting out a special welcome mat for talent just south of the border. And look, this isn't just a rumor. It's written right here in black and white in the 2025 federal budget. The government is explicitly saying they're going to create a new fast-track option for H-1B visa holders in the U.S. Why? To pull in top talent in fields like tech and healthcare. It's a straight-up move in the global competition for skilled people. And this idea didn't just pop up out of nowhere. If you rewind to July 2023, Canada launched a pilot program for H-1B holders. It was so incredibly popular that all 10,000 spots were gone in just a couple of days. That wild success is what led directly to this new promise in the 2025 budget. And we're expecting this new, more permanent pathway to get started sometime in 2026. Okay, so while we're all waiting for the details on that shiny new H-1B program, you've got to remember that Americans already have access to some really powerful options under CUSMA, the big trade agreement. These pathways, like the CUSMA professional visa or intercompany transfers, they're still some of the absolute best and most efficient ways to get up and working in Canada. All right, let's shift from talking about temporary work to something, well, a lot more permanent. We're talking about the very definition of what it means to be a Canadian citizen. A landmark legal change has just opened the door for thousands of people with Canadian roots. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to actually make that journey home. So for years, this rule, the first-generation limit, was a huge roadblock. Basically, it meant if you were a Canadian citizen but you weren't born in Canada yourself, you couldn't automatically pass on your citizenship to your own kids if they were also born abroad. It created this heartbreaking group of people, often called lost Canadians. Well, as of December 15th, 2025, that's all changed. For anyone born before that date, that old rule is just gone, wiped off the books retroactively. If this rule kept you from being a citizen before, you're now considered Canadian. Now, for the future, for anyone born after that date, there's a new rule. The Canadian parent has to have lived in Canada for at least 3 years to pass on citizenship. But the bottom line is a huge door has just been opened for a lot of people. So for so many people, this legal shift means that dream of moving home to Canada is finally actually possible. But moving across the border, even if you're a returning citizen, takes a ton of practical planning. Let's walk through a few of the absolute key steps. Now, this isn't the whole checklist, but these are 5 big ones you cannot afford to get wrong. Number 1, if your spouse isn't Canadian, get that permanent residence application started early. 2, importing your car. It's a whole process involving something called the RIV, so learn it. 3, get your full driving abstract from the DMV. You'll need it to get a Canadian license. 4, you have to declare everything you're shipping later on a form called the BSF 186. And finally, number 5, get a new will made in Canada. Your US one probably isn't going to be valid. And that brings us to our final section, and honestly, it might be the most important one, the financial and legal reality check of moving from the US to Canada. Because this move is about so much more than just packing boxes. It's a huge financial event with some really complex implications. Okay, this is one of the most critical concepts you need to wrap your head around. The moment you become a tax resident of Canada, the Canadian government basically pretends that you sold and immediately bought back all of your assets, your stocks, your investment properties, everything, at whatever they're worth that day. That new value, not what you originally paid, becomes the starting point for any future Canadian taxes. It's designed so Canada only taxes the growth that happens while you're a resident here. So the bottom line here is that planning is everything. If you're a US citizen or a green card holder, you're going to be filing taxes in both countries. It's crucial you understand how things like foreign tax credits work so you don't get double taxed. And, like we said, you've got to update your legal documents, your will, powers of attorney, because Canadian provincial laws can be totally different from what you're used to in the US. So as we wrap up, this is the final thought I really want to leave you with. You can plan the logistics of your move down to the last box, but have you truly planned for your financial move? The border you're crossing isn't just a line on a map, it's a tax and legal border too. And crossing it without a plan can cause some serious headaches. Hopefully, this has given you the map you need to start navigating it all with a lot more confidence.